Newtown Linford. You may think of the history of this fantastic village as being about Bradgate Park, the fantastic ruins of the house there, the memorial to the Leicestershire Yeomanry and the beautiful buildings of the Pheasantry and also the Deer Barn. But actually there's more to Newtown Linford than Bradgate Park, as special as that place is. And over the next 2 days we're going to be exploring that thanks to the Charnwood Forest Uncovered project. As things stand right now, there are 21 test pits being dug across this village in a project led by the University of Lincoln and the University of Leicester Archaeological Services, with many volunteers coming from around the country and also locally to support the digging of test pits. That is hopefully going to reveal more about the broader history of this village. How old will we be going back? Will we find medieval finds? Will we find Roman finds? Will we find Neolithic finds? Who knows? You'll have to follow along in the rest of this live stream to find out more. But thank you very much for joining us for Community Digs Live as we bring you the first of hopefully 3 Community Digs live stream reports on everything that's happening at this fantastic archaeological event. And there we go, we're back live. I have a feeling we might not have been live earlier on and you might have got 90 seconds of blank screen before that fantastic introduction that I recorded. So we'll just repeat ourselves again. We're at the Newtown Linford Village Hall, where we have 2 days, a fantastic weekend of archaeological digs involving our great friends at the University of Lincoln, the University of Leicester Archaeological Services, Charnwood Forest, and many fantastic volunteers from the region and more broadly around the country. And again, we'll say a big thank you to the Bradgate fine pub here in Newtown Linford, who are letting us use their Wi-Fi, and you should use their services. Fantastic dinner, fine beverages too. Go and see them. All fantastically redone, new menu, new furniture and everything. But anyway, I'm joined here by Julie Attard, who is Programme Manager at Charnwood Forest Geopark. And the question we must start with is, why Newtown Linford, and also why archaeological digs in a geopark?
Well, Jack, thanks for having me on to have a chat about this. So archaeological digs are really important because obviously we know that Charnwood Forest has got fantastic geology, but it also has an amazing history. And we want to understand how communities over time have interacted with the geology and landscape of Charnwood Forest. We want to understand how the villages have developed, which villages were settled first, what happened to them during the Black Death, for example. And we can do all of that by carrying out these community excavations. And there have been a number of excavations across Charnwood Forest in the last sort of decade or so, but no real focus on the village of Newtown Linford. There's been a lot of interest in Bradgate Park, the Upper Paleolithic site there, the excavations around Bradgate House, but we don't know that much about the development of the village. And what we're hoping to do with the 20 test pits that we're digging over this weekend is to understand which parts of the village were settled first, how has that changed over time, was there prehistoric activity here, at what point during the medieval period do we get a sort of explosion of the village. So there's an awful lot we can learn through digging these test pits.
Wonderful. And of course, this isn't the only community digs that are going on over a weekend. Just remind anyone, because we should say to everyone watching, this is not just the only way to get involved. You can, while we're live, join us in the chat. You can drop us a comment if you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook. We'll get that through our system. And hopefully, if you've got any questions, we can put them to the experts, because later today, we're going to be joined by some of the experts from Lincoln and Leicester who'll be able to answer your questions and share some of the finds. But also, what are the other opportunities to get involved in the community digs?
So we're obviously in Newtown Linford this weekend. In a fortnight's time, we're going to be at Stanton and Barden. And then first weekend in July, we're going to be digging at 2 villages at the same time, Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves. So there are still lots of opportunities. If you're interested in volunteering, you love archaeology, you'd love to get involved, please do get in touch with us at dig.charnwood@leicester.ac.uk. And that way you can volunteer, or you can come and visit our website. All the information is on there for how to get involved, and we'd love to have you take part. There's always room for more volunteer diggers and finds processors, and it's great fun. So please do think about coming along if you'd like to.
Absolutely. A lot of information there. If you want to know more, go to charnwoodforest.org/news and you'll see a story about volunteering to get involved in archaeological digs. That's got all the links and all of the information about the dates and the times and links for you to sign up to be a volunteer. And just a reminder again, if you've got any comments or questions for while we are live, do put them in the comments and we'll see them here. And we always like to know where you are joining us live from today. We are going to let Julie go at that point because she's going to be a roving reporter for us and bring us some live news from some of the test pits. But at that moment, I am going to bring in just to show you some of the slides. So thank you to Julie.
No problem.
Thank you.
See you later.
And we're just going to say we've got over 20 pits here being dug across Newtown Linford today. And you can see on the map there that's up on the screen some of the fantastic sites that have been chosen. Now, these are partly decided by, of course, who are the fantastic people who have volunteered their back gardens to be dug up, and in some cases front gardens as well, but also some being decided by our archaeological friends. Where are the places that are of interest? And you can see we've got a fantastic spread across the village there, and a huge thank you to the residents of Newtown Linford who have given up some 1 metre square lots in their gardens which are being dug. Before I'm being joined now by Jim, who's joining us. He's our public engagement coordinator at Charnwood Forest Geopark, and you might be able to see in the shot that he's got some fantastic finds. But just before he gets on to telling us about those finds, just give us a brief overview of the test pit methodology. So we're not opening up great swathes of someone's garden. We're cutting a 1 metre by 1 metre square. And how are our volunteers going about their work?
So they're doing fantastically, Jack. Well, so what they're doing is obviously the first job is to take the turf layer off. So just take that as thin as possible, take that turf off the top to give us our 1 metre square. And then it's literally, they've got their tape measure and they are going down 10 centimetres at a time, clearing the soil, and then as they lift the soil out, that's being put into a bucket, that's being passed on to the next person, who then is sieving the soil for any bits of it could be stone, it could be pottery, they don't know, until they then pass that. They bag it up, they say what test pit number they are in, what spit it is, so what level it is. So every 10 centimetre level is a different spit. And then they bag it up, they write what level and what spit it's from, and then it gets picked up by one of our amazing Charnwood Forest volunteers, and it gets brought back here, and our finds team are then cleaning them up and starting to build that picture of what's being found in the village.
So there's your first bit of technical lingo. Of course, the whole point is that volunteers get involved in this dig. So there's not actually a lot of technical lingo, but it's always nice to go home having learned something new. And spit is your first archaeological word of the day. That's each 10 centimetres as you go down, and you keep all the finds from those levels together. And obviously, if unless something's gone awry, as you go down, hopefully things are getting older. Now, let's take a quick look at some of the things that we might be finding in Newtown Linford today. Now, of course, the first one in the top left there is the one that I'd be most interested in. That's we might, if we are very, very lucky, come across some fossils. They're unlikely to be our 565 million year old fossils, but perhaps some Cretaceous creatures mixed in with the glacial layer. And then if we're very, very lucky, we might get some Neolithic or maybe even older.
So we think possibly, flints would be nice. There's a possible flint that's been found near pit 1 apparently. So that's going to come back in and we're going to have a proper look. And at test pit 18, We were up there earlier, and again, there was something that looked like it could be definitely prehistoric piece of pottery. So that's come back down, and we're getting it cleaned up, and hopefully that would be fantastic to find, because we know there's prehistoric, possibly Bronze Age or Iron Age activity happening at that part up close to the park. So that would be a great correlation if we manage to get that.
There we go. So yes, obviously, Flint's already been found next door in Bradgate Park, just in front of us as we look out here from the car park of the Bradgate pub. But there you can see on screen some of the finds that might be made. Perhaps some flints, perhaps some pottery. Will we find anything Roman? That will be very interesting for Newtown Linford. Medieval, maybe we'll find some clay pipes, and then we get into the Victorian, the pottery, into the more modern times. We've already seen in those upper layers, of course, you're going to get a lot more modern. I think there's part of a clothes peg. There's a few buttons. There's a marble. Marble's often being found in these things. And who knows, maybe we'll find some animal bones and perhaps some coins. But let's bring the screen a bit wider so we can see. Jim, let's have a look at some of the things we've got, and you may need to show it up really rather close.
Right, so we're going to start off here. So what we've got here, we've got a really nice piece of what looks like to be Victorian type glass, probably from a bottle, like a cob bottle. So the sort of thing you would have, you'd have a marble, perhaps at the at the top of the bottle for like carbonated drinks. You push the marble out so you could pour the drink through. So we think that's what this may be part of. That's quite exciting.
And of course, historically produced in the Whittick Colville area as well. So it could even be very local.
It could be very local. That would be fantastic if it was. You mentioned bone. We have a nice piece of butchered bone here. We can't tell the date from it, but it is a cow rib. I've been reliably informed. And if you look carefully, you can see some butcher's marks here. There's clearly a hack along this line here where it's been obviously butchered for someone's dinner. Nice little cow rib.
Do we think it was marinated?
Well, I think if you give it a sniff, it certainly has a certain pungent aroma to it. So who knows?
Perhaps you're watching live from your barbecue and you have a very similar piece of bone. So certainly evidence of people eating well in Newtown Linford. What else have we got, Jim?
We've got another nice little glass bottle lid here, and actually there's a John Kilner. Wakefield. We can actually see imprinted on the actual the bottle top itself, which is quite nice.
And I think that's Kilner of Kilner jar fame. Is it not?
Well, we think this probably is a Kilner jar. So so how old a Kilner jar? We're not quite sure, but a Kilner jar nonetheless.
Very useful for preservation. What else have we got?
We've got some medieval. Let's go medieval, shall we? So these are a couple of little bits. I'm just going to hold them up close to the camera because they are quite small to see. So we've got, let's get these in the right order. So in this little thing, if I can just show you that is some medieval Potter's Marsden ware. So it's believed that the Potter's Marsden is close to Earl Shilton, that part of the county, sort of southwest. And it's believed that about 70% of the medieval pottery in Leicestershire comes from the Potter's Marsden kilns. So it's nice to find a good bit of local medieval pottery there.
And just remind us, when you say medieval, what kind of age are we thinking there in numbers?
In numbers, so we're probably thinking 14th, 15th century. Could be earlier because it is used for a longer period. So without a proper look, and if we had a bit more, then we might be able to, if we get a nice little cluster of some more, we might be able to date slightly better amongst the other finds that we come out with it as to which century. Because Potter's Marsden ware is used over quite a few centuries.
Excellent. And while Jim, have you got anything else to show us, Jim? While you're prepping the next bit, we'll say a big hello to Wendy Wallace. Thank you for joining us here today. And you were saying you weren't able to join us this weekend. Hopefully, Wendy, you can join us for a future one of the community digs. As I've said, more information on our website. And of course, if you are able to pop down to Newtown Linford this weekend, you're more than welcome to come down to the village hall between 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock, where you'll be able to see live all the finds being cleaned. Because while we're spread across the village in our test pits, all of the finds are being brought back to the village hall, and you're more than welcome to pop in between 10 and 4 tomorrow. And or indeed, if you're very close by, you can maybe make it down in the next 45 minutes, and you can see both some of the clean finds and the process of cleaning these things up and trying to work out what they are. So any other finds, Jim?
I've got a few more. I wanted to stick with the pottery again, a bit more medieval pottery, but something a bit more from your neck of the woods, Jack. So this is some Staffordshire slipware.
I'm surely some of the finest pottery you can find.
Well, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, that's why there's only so little of it, because everyone treasured it so much that it's never been broken up, except for these rare occasions. But it's nice that you get this nice sort of line decorative effect from the slipware, which is very nice to see. This is a bit more modern, sticking with the pottery, but a bit more modern. Now, this came from Test Pit 13, which is between, if you know Newtown Linford.
Let me bring the map up for everyone, and we can bring that up.
Fabulous.
So Test Pit 13. Just remind us where that is.
So Test Pit 13 is almost directly opposite the village church. So you've got the Jade tea rooms on one side, and I think it's the old post office tea rooms on the other. And what you've got is a what was probably originally a medieval trackway. And it looks like over the years and the decades and the centuries, it's been used by those respective properties as a bit of a dump ground. But as a result, there's all sorts of weird and wonderful things coming out. So on this we have what looks to be, it could either be a pie dish or a dog bowl. I will let you decide. But we have almost the whole thing entirety in bits in the other room.
I'm going to hope for a pie.
I'm hoping for pie as well. We have something a bit finer here, a bit more. This is more your sort of modern sort of tableware.
Very refined.
Very refined. You can tell by the lovely golden edging along the side there. So that's very nice. Shall we go metal? Let's look for some metal now.
Let's have a look at some metal.
So from the same test pit, where again we're getting all sorts of weird and wonderful things that are coming out. We have this now. We are not entirely sure what this is. People have mentioned trophies. Some sort of there's definitely a screw element there. Is your brain going overtime, Jack, trying to work this in?
I'm thinking it's some kind of applicator. This to me, here we're working it out live, ladies and gentlemen who are joining us. To me, this looks like it's got a plunger on the top and an arm that's coming down. It's been squashed and it's clearly got a little tap that comes out the end and the side. I think that's some kind of plunger of some kind and would have been maybe something in construction.
Quite possibly. Well, you can take your hypothesis and take it to the archaeologists inside, and we'll see what if they concur or not. I think they're as stumped as you, to be fair, well, as me anyway. You seem to have a much better grasp on the potential applications of this.
Well, there we are. There's some of the early finds. Oh, he's got another one for us, ladies and gentlemen. And just to say, if you've got an idea about what some of these things might be, do put them in the chat, and we will pass them on, and we'd love to discuss them with you. What have you got for us, Jim?
Okay, for our last object, something very, very recognisable, metal again, and I think there'll be no prizes for guessing what this is. So a fantastic horseshoe. Big old horse that's come off. At this point, again, it's hard to tell exactly what date it is. It's been in there for a long, long time, so it's quite corroded. But again, we'll see when it's put in the context of the other finds that are found around it. So that might give us a dating time period for it.
Hopefully, a good omen.
I think so. But we definitely need to keep it that way.
Yes. If I remember rightly, this find came in alongside a rusted bottle opener and something else that was drinking related. So we've got equestrian scrap and also drinking at the same time.
Perhaps the post-hunt sort of beverage sojourn.
Fine speculation. And there we go. This is the very early parts of the dig. So a big thank you to Jim, who is going to make sure that those are all put back so that they remain in context. So maybe he'll bring us some more in a bit.
I will.
Do find out what's going on. And indeed, if he's got any other stories to share, we'll bring you some more news and updates just after this. Just a reminder, you're joining us live from Newtown Linford Village Hall, where we have the Charnwood Forest community archaeological digs. And I just wanted to go over again some of the other opportunities to get involved in the coming weeks, because this isn't the only one. These are weekends where expert archaeologists come together with volunteers from across the region and the country to find out the secret and hidden stories of some of our villages in Charnwood Forest. As we've said, we're in Newtown Linford today and tomorrow, but there are 2 other community digs coming up in the next few months. The first is in 2 weeks' time in Stanton-under-Bardon, where we will be in the village from the 16th to the 17th of May. And there's still an opportunity to get involved. We are so grateful to the villagers there in Stanton-under-Bardon who have already offered up their gardens and other spaces that we're going to be digging these 1-metre test pits in. But if you'd like to get involved and actually doing the digging or cleaning up some of the finds as they come in, there's still an opportunity to get involved. And as I said, you can find out more on our website. And of course, we come back again in July, on the 4th and 5th of July at Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves, where we'll be across those 2 villages put together in 1 parish. And again, many of the villagers have given up their gardens for a test pit to be dug over those 2 days. What will we find? Well, we can only do it with your help and support. So do get involved. More information on that at charnwoodforest.org. At this point, I should also say a huge thank you to the National Lottery Heritage Fund, who fund Charnwood Forest Geopark and all the work that we do here, including the fantastic digs that we're doing here in Newtown Linford this weekend. And of course, they also help us to look after the fabulous fossils we have here. Now, the purpose of this weekend is not to talk about the geology as much as I might like to, but of course there's a very special anniversary coming up in the next few weeks, and perhaps if I play this little video you might work out what the connection is.
Now, a fossil found in rock in Charnwood Forest in Leicestershire could be evidence of one of the earliest predators that ever lived 560 million years ago. Paleontologists say it pushes back their understanding of modern animal groups like jellyfish by 20 million years, as Victoria Hicks reports.
560 million years ago, Charnwood Forest sat at the bottom of a deep ocean on the sides of a series of volcanoes, and it's here where this earliest known animal predator would have lived. How significant is this find?
Well, the early history of animal life is very poorly understood, and that's mostly because there are very few fossils preserved at that time. This fossil pushes back one of the modern groups of animals by 20 million years further back into time, and that's the group that included the sea anemones, the jellyfish and the corals.
It's understood this specimen lived in shallower water than other fossils found here. It's different from anything else found around the world because it has a skeleton with densely packed tentacles.
So we know that the animal had a stalk and a cup, and on top of that, or within that cup, was a polyp, very much like a sea anemone with lots of tentacles that it used to catch food.
This fossil has been named Aurora lumini attenboroughi after Sir David Attenborough, who used to hunt for fossils here as a child in Charnwood Forest. Interestingly though, he said he never went looking for fossils in the rocks where this one was found because they were considered so ancient they dated from before life began on this planet.
That all changed in 1957 when a schoolboy found this fern-like impression. It turned out to be one of the oldest fossilised animals, Charnia masoni, further establishing Charnwood Forest as a world-class site for paleontologists.
For the first time, we're able to say at 560 million years ago, there was a group of animals that looked just like modern animals, that had skeletons, that were predators and that were colonial. There were lots of them living together. That's a really, really big thing.
Victoria Hicks, BBC East Midlands Today, Charnwood.
That was, of course, Aurora Lumina attenborough, which was discovered only a few years ago here in Charnwood Forest, the oldest predatory animal ever discovered from around 560 million years ago. And what's interesting about that is, of course, in the next week, on Friday, it will be Sir David Attenborough's 100th birthday. Now, I'm not going to tell you all the details of how we're going to be celebrating that fantastic anniversary, but there's going to be a big celebration here in Charnwood Forest. So do follow along on our website and on social media and expect a big story on Friday as we here at Charnwood Forest, proud custodians of Aurora Lumina attenborough, celebrate the 100th birthday of Sir David Attenborough. Now, I can see there's potentially, we're going to be going live perhaps in a few moments to one of the sites where the digs are happening. But just before that, we're going to look at the geology, because the geology of Newtown Linford is controlling our archaeology as well. And you can see the test pits on the screen there plotted on top of the geology. That yellow stripe down the middle is river deposits, very recent, from the last few tens of thousands of years, but you only need to get a little bit away from the main road that runs along Newtown Linford before the rocks get very, very old, very, very quickly, and we're going to be encountering that as we dig deeper. Now, this might not work. Oh, I've just lost our live feed to one of the test pits here in Newtown Linford. Hopefully we'll be joined again in a moment. So I'll go back to look at the 21 test pits that are being dug across Newtown Linford over this weekend. You can see we're stretching up to the kind of Alderscroft end of the village in the northwest, and also down towards the Anstey end of the village in the east. And this gives us an opportunity to explore a number of ideas about the history of this area of Charnwood Forest in Newtown Linford. Now, there are some very old records of Newtown Linford, but its name, Newtown, implies perhaps there was an older town or settlement, or was it a dispersed settlement that then came together? We're not quite sure, but perhaps you can hear me at the test pit. I'm hoping that we can go live to a test pit now. I'm going to bring in Julie now. Julie, can you hear me? You're now live.
I can hear you now, Jack. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fantastically. Tell us where you are.
So we are at Test Pit 8, and we are excavating. I think we're in the, was it third or fourth context now? Fourth context now. So I'm going to come over to the test pit and show you what's going on, and perhaps the folks at the test pit could give us a bit of a summary of how things have been going today and what you found so far.
And tell us who you are as well.
Yeah, tell us who you are.
So I'm Stephen. Brian.
Hi, Stephen and Brian. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we found some really interesting things. Plenty of clay pipe.
They'll need to speak up a bit, Julie, or you'll have to go closer.
I'll go a bit closer. Can you
Fantastic.
speak up a little bit so we can hear you?
Yeah, of
Thank
course.
you.
Plenty of clay pipe, which is exciting always. Some glass.
Yeah, and some pansion.
Panchinware, fantastic.
And some looks like Victorian crockery with patterns on.
Blue and white. Plenty of that.
And now we've come down through some nice soil and we're into the clay layer.
Yeah.
At 40.
Right, so I imagine that's a little bit tougher going when you get into the clay layer there then.
Oh, it is, yeah. I think this is the end for this bit.
Okay.
So just for everyone watching at home, context is another word for spit that we were using before. These are these 10 centimetre layers that they are digging there live. Remind us, Julie, whereabouts you are in Newtown Linford.
So we are, we're sort of not too far from the village hall. We're on, I'm just going to get the details, but I think we are. We're sort of on we're on
everywhere.
Main Street. We're on Main Street, so we're just a little way up from the Village Hall and the Bradgate pub, for those of you that know that area. And yeah, we're in the back garden of one of the lovely houses along here, and actually there is another test pit in the same garden further up. So in a few minutes I'll take you up there and we can see whether we've managed to find anything in that test pit too.
That's fantastic. If I will take you out of the screen, Julie, because I'm going to bring Jim in, and we'll bring you back in when you go to the second test pit. Thank you, Julie, there, bringing us live from a test pit, bringing Jim Butler back in. We were just live with Julie there, having a look at a test pit. They've found some lovely pipe. It seems like everyone was smoking in historic Newtown Linford. Have you got something to show us, or have you got a story?
Well, excitingly, so this has just come in, and we need your expertise because we think it might be a fossil. So
this is live. I haven't seen this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to pull up the comments in case anyone. People saying hello to Brian, who was digging there, and that was Julie Attard as well. But anyway, Jim, what have we got?
So, well, you tell me. So this is what we found, and they seem to think it might be fossil-like. So, are you able to enlighten us?
It is. Let's show the ladies and gentlemen at home a very white specimen here, cracked probably half, and we can very clearly see the layers as this shell has grown. It's clearly a shell, and it's clearly a shelled creature of the group that's known as the bivalves. Now, we need to be careful, ladies and gentlemen, because of course when we're doing archaeological digs we often find the rubbish left behind by people, and one thing that people like to eat was things like oysters, while we may now think of oysters as something that's very swanky.
Yes, very luxurious.
Very luxurious, that's the word. In days gone by, it's what you'd do a hard day's labour and you pop down to the pub and you'd have a pint and a few oysters.
Common as much.
And you chuck the shells in the pub garden, and someone hundreds of years later digs them up. Now, so the question is this a modern one, or modern to a geologist, meaning anything that an archaeologist would be interested in, or perhaps is it historic? Is it truly historic in being fossil? I think this is a fossil, and the reason why is even just rubbing it with my hands, it's a very, very dusty on the outside. I think this might be a bivalve from the Cretaceous chalk. And at that point, you might be thinking, Cretaceous chalk? There's no Cretaceous chalk in Charnwood Forest. There's fine rocks of much finer, older pedigree than the Cretaceous. So how do we have a Cretaceous bivalve in the soils of Charnwood Forest? And the answer is the glaciers. So I would say that is potentially a Cretaceous bivalve that has been brought down from somewhere north of here or east of here. We're talking Lincolnshire, we're talking up towards Yorkshire, and that is potentially the source of this Cretaceous fossil. A fine moped there. So that is what I think that is. That would place it somewhere between about, what would it be? Most of those bivalves from the chalk are about very, very roughly 100 million years old. I could well be very, very wrong, and perhaps it actually turns out that it's modern. Who knows? But that would be my guess. Cretaceous fossils are very common in the rocks around here. Oh, the moped's coming back just to be more over the top. They are very common in the glacial around here. Normally we find Cretaceous gastropod known as Gryphea, but I don't think that's a Gryphea. I think that's a slightly different one, and my bivalve knowledge is not good enough.
Okay, well, thank you, Jack. I shall rush back in and tell the archaeologists that this is probably the oldest thing that we've found so far.
Well, there's a few rocks.
There is a few. Okay, yeah. That's it. Okay, living specimen.
Of oldest thing associated with life.
Yes, that's perfect. I like that terminology indeed. Right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jim. And at that point, we're going to zip back over to Julie Attard, and we should say that Wendy Wallace says hello, Julie. I believe you were involved in a dig together at Rothley. Julie, you're back in live. Remind us which test pit you're at.
So we're now at Test Pit 9, which is also on Main Street in Newtown Linford. And we're going to have a chat to some of the folks who've been digging Test Pit 9, and they've had some interesting things come out, which we'll go and have a look at in the find tray. So I will go over and approach the test pit, and we'll have a chat with the folks there and see what they found. So here we are entering the test pit. So
tell us who you are.
Tell us who you are.
Graham Coons from Shepshire. My wife Christine is here helping. Been an archaeologist since we were teenagers. We're now in the 70s. We've found what we believed was a prehistoric pottery, but after washing up at the village hall, it turned out to be a piece of building plaster.
Oh no!
With the inclusions in the building plaster. It's coarse sand and whatever. So we got down to a clay layer. Looked like we'd finished the dig. But, we were asked to go through the clay layer, and yes, we're back into topsoil again and finding more finds.
Excellent. Well, that's great to know that we've got more finds coming out. That's fantastic. So, but I imagine it's been quite hard work digging through that clay layer.
Yes.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. So so we're sifting through those finds, and I'll come over to where the finds are the soil's being sifted, and they're looking for finds, and we'll have a little chat with them over there. So
there's a big piece.
There's a big piece of big piece of pottery. So let's come and have a look.
Yeah. Sure.
And any favourite finds so far, Julie? We love to hear about people's favourite finds.
Yes, if you've got. Well, we're just getting one out now for you to have a look at. Oh, yes, that's fantastic. So let me just get that in shot for you. There we go. Can you see that okay on screen there?
We can see that fantastically. I think you might have lost the deposit on that bottle though, Julie.
Yes, I think we probably have. I think it's probably a bit too late to return that one. So I don't think we're going to get any funds back from that. So that's probably one of the largest pieces of pottery you found. What's been your favourite find of the day so far?
The piece of plaster with the stones in.
Yeah.
It was prehistoric to us.
Yeah, it was Iron Age, but it doesn't seem to have been the case.
Oh, that's a shame.
But, that's nice because that only came out 10 minutes ago.
Yes.
So it's nice to have
a nice big sherd that you can. We'll take that back to the finds processing area and get that cleaned up and looked at. So have you been finding any animal bone or any metal or anything like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, animal bone. We've got lots of clay pipe. Another bucket. Quite not sure what that is. It looks like a metal handle of some sort.
Yeah.
But not quite sure what that is.
Yeah.
So it gets properly cleaned.
Let's see if I
can. Lots of little shards of charcoal, and we think sort of 16, maybe 17, 18th century.
Yeah.
Bits of pottery. But,
yeah, it certainly looks like you're getting back into layers where you've got finds that are a couple of 100 years old at least. And so as we go through that clayey layer, you may well find some older medieval pottery below that. So yeah. Well done. I mean, you must be a bit tired now. Make sure you stay hydrated and everything. Yes, and it's a lovely warm day. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
And
Thanks, Jack.
Julie, just before we leave the test pit, could it be interesting to find out where our volunteers are joining us from today?
Oh yes, okay, we can certainly do that. So where are you all from? We know that two of you are from Shepshire. From Leicester. And Shepshire as well. Yeah, so from across the Geopark and the city.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Julie. Hopefully we might see you. Will we see you once more before we end the stream?
I will see if I can find another place where I can get a signal for me to live stream.
This is fantastic. Thank you so much.
No
Right,
problem.
we will leave Test Pit 9. Thank you to Test Pit 9 for joining us there. A reminder that if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments if you're logged into YouTube or Facebook, and we will try and put them to the experts. We're going to be joined by some experts in a moment. And if you can hear a little bit of water every so often, that's because we have some very hard-working volunteers who occasionally are having to come out and pour out some muddy water, which is coming off all the fantastic finds that are rolling in. And you can imagine, if we're finding these things today in the upper layers, imagine what we might find tomorrow. Now, we just come up and look at those maps again. There's all our modern maps and where the test pits are over this weekend. There was the geology that I was talking about before we went live to Julie and Jim. And you can see the test pits are spread across those different geologies, which allows us to consider how the finds are being controlled, and therefore how people were using the landscape is being controlled by the geology and therefore the soils. We're expecting sandier soils on that blue section in the east of Newtown Linford and more clay soils as we're near to the River Lynn in that central section. Of course, we'll hear back from the volunteers later about whether they found the soils that we might have expected. And you can just take a look there at a historic map. There's the same plot of the 20 or so test pit locations. We're digging over, you can see there's 24 labelled on there, but we're digging 20 at the moment, keeping a few spare, because sometimes you dig a test pit and you either find nothing or you go very quickly through the soil and hit the natural ground that hasn't been in any way interfered with by humans in human history, and therefore you end that pit very quickly and you move on to a new one. For those who are joining us fresh and haven't got our introduction, welcome. You're joining us live from Newtown Linford Village Hall next to the Bradgate pub, who have very kindly let us use their Wi-Fi. And if you have any questions, do pop them in the chat. Now we've got test pits being dug across the village. As I said, we're expecting to get finds. Well, we don't really know what to expect because so little has been dug in Newtown Linford outside of Bradgate Park before. We've already seen a few finds that have been brought to us by Jim, and I'm sure we'll see a few more in a moment. And perhaps if we can, we'll bring in Julie again. But Test Pit 9 there showing some fantastic finds. I should say there's someone who's doing some cleaning there. You're more than welcome to carry on your work. Don't let the live stream stop you. You take precedence. I'm just presenting. Do go ahead. I can't make sure I don't get in the way of the very important work that's happening here to clean up all of the finds. I should say everything that's found here over the weekend. Hello. Carenza, can we pull you in? Do join us round here. We're joined live by Professor Carenza Lewis from the University of Lincoln, who's helping to lead with colleagues from ULAS. You've been going around some of the test pits, seeing how it's going. Just give us a flavour of how the weekend's going so far.
Okay, so really interesting so far. It's great. We've got 20 test pits open. We've got 100 volunteers digging them, which is fantastic. We've got them spread all across the village. So we're at the moment, most of them are about 30 centimetres down, which tends to be the point at which you got through the modern stuff and into the kind of pre-modern stuff. So that gets us beyond the point where we've got really good documentary history for what's going on. So that's when the archaeology becomes really valuable. When you say pre-modern, are we talking about kind of we're getting before the Victorian era, or? Yeah, so before about 1900 or 1800 perhaps. So we got some really nice bits from the modern period. We had a glass marble, which I always really like, stuff that tells us about children playing in the gardens. And we've got some really nice bits of sort of 18th century pottery. So obviously that's earlier than that. We've got Staffordshire wares that are coming in from quite a distance. Some of them are really delicate little sherds of things that would have been teacups or coffee cups or little beer mugs that say You've got people with some sort of quite high standard living here because they're able to buy nicely made stuff to eat and drink from. We've got a few bits of medieval, but I think we should get more medieval tomorrow, and I'll be intrigued to see if we do get it from around the church, which is where we might expect it, if the new town was sort of built with a new church and then people were living around that. But obviously it's a very long linear village, and we've got medieval kind of at both ends of it at the moment, so it may have been kind of just little farmsteads or groups of cottages strung out along the street. We don't know that at the moment. I think the most interesting bit for me right now, just come back from test pit 18, which is about a mile up that way, which is why I'm slightly out of breath.
So test pit 18, right up on the eastern side. We were just showing you that geological map before. That's the in that blue section. So they're up in the sandier soils. I'm going to bring the map up on screen there. Test pit 18, right up on the eastern side as you go out of the village towards Anstey. So what's the news from 18?
So they have got a huge amount of slag from that. They've literally got a bag full of slag, ironworking slag, I think. And it is completely different to what has come from test pit 17, for example, where they got a lot of your bunch of pebbles, I think, in soil. I'm not even sure, they might be getting towards natural there. So that slag isn't everywhere. But in test pit 17, there's masses of it. And the big question is, what date is it? So it looks like iron working. They're using probably iron out of the sandstone, breaking that up, perhaps melting that down, or heating it up so that the iron kind of smelts out of that.
And of course, we're not far from Carboniferous deposits where you would get quite a lot of ironstone towards, only a few miles or kilometres away from Whittick and Colville, which would be a fantastic, at that time, probably the best local source for those kind of Carboniferous ironstones as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And perhaps there's a source a bit nearer here, because obviously what you don't really want to be doing in the pre-modern peering is carrying stuff like that around very far. You tend to do your smelting where you find your raw materials, and you need your wood and you need your source of iron. So what is going to be really interesting, seeing if we can get any dating evidence out from it. There's one bit of pottery, or what might be pottery. We're not quite sure. If it is pottery, it's going to be prehistoric, which might help date the slag. But what's interesting is the slag's all quite light and it's quite bubbly. And that's usually a sign that it's more recent, because the technology, the lighter your slag is, the more iron has been taken out of it, because obviously they're not trying to create slag, they're trying to create usable iron. So the fact that it's also light is suggesting to me that it might be either medieval or post-medieval, early modern, but we haven't got any pottery in with it. So at the moment, we're just waiting to see what might turn up in terms of helping us date that layer. But that's the really unexpected thing that's come up at the moment.
Fantastic. So yeah, we have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just about the finds, but the stories that can tell us about the people who have lived in this landscape over tens of thousands of years.
The other thing we've got that's really nice is from the centre of the village, near the church, sort of where the cafe is and this footpath, we're getting masses of 19th century Victorian pottery. And it's just giving us that really clear window into what people had in their homes in the Victorian period. And it would be lovely if we could create a little display of that, maybe to go in the village hall as a legacy from this, just giving a sense of what the Victorian rural, reasonably well-to-do family home would have had in it. And it's pretty stuff, it's blue and white willow pattern stuff. It's this kind of dendritic tree decorate. Well, it looks like a sort of tree branches where you're putting wet slip on wet slip, and it kind of sort of runs through it and creates shapes that look like sort of trees. Very, very characteristic, and some nice mottled brownware. It's just a lovely mixture of stuff that gives, and there's even a bit of a chamber pot. Before there would have been sanitation.
So you get everything here in the test pits in Newtown Linford. We saw some of those articles a little bit earlier on. We saw a potential pie dish, and we were just live with test pit 9, who had it had some writing on the outside talking about the deposit, talking about how to get the deposit back on the pot. And we thought you might not be getting the deposit back on the pot. So a kind of Victorian pot that you might have had given the pot back.
Cross, they dropped it, so they couldn't get the deposit back. Brilliant. That's a funny thing about it being all stretched out, because of course we're all in different places. We're seeing different bits. So I've been one end of the village, so I don't know what's been going on at this end of the village.
Now you and we won't keep you too long, because you and your colleagues from ULAS are very busy busy overseeing all the digs that are happening. But you mentioned, you know, the potential to make a little display here. Just explain to people briefly what's going to happen to all the things that are found here over this weekend.
So we'll take them back to the University of Leicester. The ULES team are going to do the post-excavation for that. Obviously, I'm at University of Lincoln, so we're doing this in collaboration, but they've got the centre that they can do that post-excavation. Everything will be then accurately dated. We might take a couple of soil samples and try and get a search from this slag layer. It'd be really interesting to take a soil sample, and there might be something like seeds in that if we sorted it out, we might be able to get organic material that we could radiocarbon date. So all that will happen. And then the finds, ultimately, some of it will be discarded. So we won't keep all of the slag, but we'll get a sample so we can look at it. Might be able to get some dating from that. Bits of brick and things like that. We won't keep all of them. But then the eventual finds either will be kept by ULES, or they'll go to a local museum, or they could come back to the community here. I'm a great one for having finds in the place where they've come from, because I think it's so much more interesting when you go somewhere. And obviously Newtown Linford is a lovely place to come to anyway, and it's steeped in history. I mean, hundreds of thousands of years of history and prehistory. But actually to have a little sort of something where people can actually see something of what actually came from under the ground that's permanently on display, I think would be lovely. So I think it would be great to have the finds come back here eventually.
Fantastic. And of course, the Geopark will be helping with that. Everything, Professor Lewis and colleagues from ULAS will be writing everything up in a wonderful report. So it's all recorded, because who knows what discoveries it might influence in the future. And we're hoping that we can get a few talks as well, so that, because obviously we're trying to interpret things live to you. You saw a few moments ago when Jim gave me a fossil and I had to, with no notice, try and interpret it.
One person who can do that, that would be you.
Well, we try. But of course, with all the time and the expertise of broader colleagues, that'll all be brought together to really figure out the full story that we can work out from the finds that are being made.
And we'll definitely come back and do a talk in the winter, I think, when everyone remember the warm summer days when they were doing the digging. We'll come back in the winter, maybe around Christmas, and have a sort of celebratory, what do we found, what do we make, what does it mean, what's the story?
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you're signed up to the Charnwood Forest newsletter on our website. That way you'll get all of the updates, and perhaps we'll do what we did with Bow Manor and have mulled wine, mince pie, and some fantastic archaeological discoveries presented.
Right, send me the date. That sounds fantastic. That's
there we go. Thank you, Professor Lewis, again. And we're getting a bit of people agreeing that we should have some displays as well. So thank you to everyone who's joining us live and putting in the chat. Lots of people totally agreeing with Professor Lewis that we should have a display, and we'll Jim and myself and colleagues, we will definitely work with that. Open call to anyone on the parish council if you'd like a display of some of this weekend's archaeological finds. Now I'm hoping that Julie might join us again in a moment, but maybe Jim looks to be holding his hands in such a way that he might have something. So Jim, do join us back in the stream. What have you got? You're holding your hands very tightly.
Again, I come to you when I have geology stuff, and we have. So I think you won't recognise what's going on with that little.
So yes, we should make sure that just because I'm presenting this live stream, it doesn't turn into community geological digs. But now, what's going to be happening is the soil is derived from the geology, both the bedrock geology and all of those glacial bits that have been picked up as that great glacier from the Anglian glaciation.
Just an update. No sign of Julie, but you've got pretty much all the archaeologists in there. So Matthew is in there, and Joe will.
If anyone wants to come and speak to us, we're live for the next 10 to 15 minutes. Do send them over. We'd love to hear some of their fantastic discoveries. If they want to bring something as well, that would be fantastic. While we're waiting, it sounds like you're going to get all the experts now, ladies and gentlemen. And you're stuck with me talking about rocks until they turn up. But Jim has brought me a lovely rock here. So what we can see, it's about this big, and you might be able to see lots of layers in there. The bottom of it being very sandy and gritty, fining upwards, so we can tell that was the way up of the rock, and a nice kind of bluey greeny greys there. This is one of our most ancient rocks of Charnwood Forest. It's probably at least 565 million years old. My guess, with it being a little bit gritty and some very finer siltstone as well, this is probably either the Bradgate Formation or the Beacon Hill Formation. both of which are found within a few hundred meters of here, and being very angular, we can tell hasn't been transported very far. So probably over time, this has been eroded into the soil and just is found in the soil, probably very close to where it was eroded out. So that is a piece of Precambrian, or if we want to be even more specific, Ediacaran rock. And I would guess, my best guess would be that that is part of the Bradgate Formation, which is a very nice thing to find in Newtown Linford. Thank you for that, Rock.
Definitely.
Now I'm going to bring in, we've got more finds. Do come in, Will. And yes, Wendy is asking online, which is just while Will's joining me here. Wendy's asking a question. Is that a mudstone? It's partly a mudstone, Wendy, and it's partly a siltstone, and it's partly a sandstone as well. It's a bit of a mix. Now, Will, step this way.
Hello.
What have we, Will, remind me, who are you and what are you doing here today?
Well, I work with the University of Leicester Archaeological Services. I'm part of their post-excavation team, so I'm not normally found out in the field. And today I'm not out in the field either. I've been in the village hall looking after all of the different finds and materials that have been coming out the test pits with a team of wonderful volunteers helping to clean up the artifacts and do our best to work out exactly what it is we're finding.
Wonderful. And do you have some perhaps choice or favourite little finds to share with us on the live stream?
Yeah, I brought out one of our larger groups that's come out of one of the test pits today that has some really nice sort of characterful pieces in it. So I think my favourite one so far we found, I don't know if that...
We're over here.
There we go. So we've got a lovely horseshoe that has come out, quite a large width on that, so it's probably sort of a large working horse. And it's been particularly nice because we've had several horses going up and down the road outside throughout the day as well. So that's a really good one.
Good example of the geological principle of uniformitarianism. Learn from the modern day what could be used in the past. Ooh. More dinner we've got.
And then,
we had ribs earlier on.
Well, we've got some more ribs here. So we've got a mix of bones. We got some cattle ribs. What's really nice about these is they've got very evident soaring marks on them. I don't know if that's going to come through.
A very clean cut there.
So it's got, but I don't know if you can see, there's like ridges and striated edge along there that show us that it's been sawn through. So we've got evidence of what people have been eating. But then we've also got evidence of sort of the more natural processes. So this pit, along with several others, have also been producing little rabbit bones. So this is a rabbit femur from the leg, almost certainly from a wild animal that maybe has burrowed into the ground rather than evidence food waste. We've had quite a lot of young rabbit bones as well, which is sort of more typical of what we'd expect in a sort of naturally occurring population, as opposed to ones that have been deliberately brought in for food.
Yes, because of course, lots of places in Charnwood Forest with Warren in the name. And indeed, a gentleman was, I remember reading a historic court case of a gentleman who'd been caught trying to catch rabbits in Bradgate Park. And his punishment was to never go to Bradgate Park ever again.
So that's all I've got in this tray. But yeah.
We've got Professor Lewis joining us back in.
The live stream challenge.
There we go.
So we've got this. We've got a whole load of this. Is from Test Pit 2. So up at the sort of other end of the village, we've got some really nice, probably early 20th century stuff. There's this little tube of cream here.
A little closer to me, and
so
if we hold it up to that camera there, a tube of cream.
Yeah. So Heinz cream. It looks like honey and almond, and it's something about you put it on your elbows and your arms, so that looks like hand cream or something, but what we're really puzzled by is these little things. Now I don't know if people can see that. So they're these strange little rectangular curve. They've got a plastic outer, so they're not very old. There's some kind of rather burned up core. It looks very much like the sort of material you get in the center of batteries when they've burned out. But we've got dozens, well, we've got certainly 15 or 20 of the masses of them. I don't know if people can see those there.
There we go.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We've got about 15 or so of them. We don't know what they are. So if anyone has any idea what they are, do please message in. They're quite heavy. It feels like a metal core or something in the middle. Somebody will know exactly what these are. Probably 20th century, but we're baffled.
Right, we will pop that on our social media as well. And if you've got an idea of what those might be, do message in just while colleagues here are perhaps looking for some other stuff to show. I can see that we've got Julie, so I'm going to bring Julie in. Julie, welcome back to the live stream. Tell us where you're joining us from.
Hello, Jack. I'm back. I'm at Test Pit 5 now. With the team here, so we are at the top, sort of junction between Main Street and Bradgate Road, is it? So we've got the team here, and they are working their way down through, I think, into the 4th or 5th layer now. And I'm going to get one of them to come over and tell us what they've found. So if you just bear with me a second, and I will get somebody over to come and talk to us. I'm standing in about the only spot that I can get a signal, so that's why I can't go to them, but hopefully you can see them quite well. So Test Pit 5 people.
Test Pit
5
there. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. That's totally me. I'm just going to bring everyone back into the stream. Julie's just getting some people from Test Pit 5 there to join her. Let's just have another look at where Test Pit 5 is. I'm just looking on my map there. Test Pit 5, right up at the northwest end of Newtown Linford. Now, I'm going to try and bring Julie back in again.
Yeah.
Julie, you're back in the stream. Show us a little bit about, introduce who's joining you there and what are some of the favourite finds of the day?
Yes, so we've had some really good finds. We've had some quite interesting ones come out in the last sort of 10, 15 minutes or so. So Test Pit 5 folks, if you would like to tell us, please tell us who you are. And then
I'm Phil.
Phil.
We've got a whole crowd of people currently digging what looks like a bottle pit. Lots of the same type of bottle, and interestingly, a lot of them have still got fluid in them as well.
Right.
We've
okay.
sniffed it, not
no,
tasted
no,
it.
No, don't sniff or taste.
No sniffing either.
No. Definitely don't want to do that.
As far as we're aware, probably not alcohol.
No.
Yeah, interesting that they would still have some of them look like they were full of water. But they're all complete bottles. They all look about the same. Lots and lots of broken ones. So it looks like some broken plates.
Yeah.
Probably got a battery. And possibly a car battery.
Oh my goodness. There. Okay.
Which, if you look in, is quite green.
Okay. Well, we won't touch that. I don't think.
No, not touching that one. We're going around it with the trowels.
But you've had lots of pottery come out in the top layers, haven't you? And a horseshoe, I believe, as well. So there's clearly
you've got pieces like this where you can see it's quite clearly part of a plate.
Yeah.
Lots of pieces like that. So they all look fairly modern.
Oh yeah. Thank you so much, Julie. I think we're going to come back to base now, but thank you, Test Pit 5, for all your hard work. What fantastic finds there. And Julie, we'll see you back at base. Thank you. Coming back to Newtown Linford, we're joined by Professor Lewis again. What have we got?
Well, every time I go into the finds at the base village hall we're using as a base, there's some more interesting stuff. We've just got a photograph of this, but this is Test Pit 15 here.
So we show it right up to this camera here.
There. And you can
just
gone blank.
There we go. So this is coming live from a test pit. Has it not even managed to get
that
to the
hasn't got back here yet. No, absolutely. So you've just got the photograph of that. You can see that big chunk with a sort of curving rim around it, medieval pottery, big lump of it, suggests it hasn't, and there's several other bits of medieval pottery there as well, suggests it hasn't moved very far. It looks like we've got medieval habitation there probably, so that we've actually got, a minute, isn't it? You can tell it's an interesting find because there's deafening noise all around. Looks like we've definitely got medieval habitation there. And that is on the footpath that leads kind of out of the village. Test Pit 15, where the cafe is, there's a test pit by that. There's a little footpath that goes out of the village. That's where we're getting the biggest bit of medieval pottery. Frustratingly, I was there about 2 minutes before it came out of the ground and then it disappeared. Then they found it.
There we go. For those that you know Newtown Linford, those are the cafes just opposite the entrance to Bradgate Park. There's a number of footpaths that lead up away from Bradgate Park there. Some fantastic. Thank you so much again to Carenza. And you can tell that there's amazing finds being found all the time. And we've finally hit some really conclusive big chunks of medieval pottery, which is very, very exciting. Now, we've gone on a little longer than we intended, but because things have been so exciting. But if you want to know more about what's happening this weekend and the finds that are being found, because the digs will continue tomorrow from about 10 o'clock onwards, and they'll be filling in their pits from about 3 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock. So everything is finished up by 4:30. But you're more than welcome to join us down here at Newtown Linford Village Hall tomorrow between 10 and 4, and you can see some of the finds that we've shown you today live, and many of the new ones that will be discovered tomorrow as well. And if that isn't enough, or maybe you can't join us tomorrow, just remember there's going to be a big report that brings all of these discoveries together, and you heard it from Professor Carenza Lewis herself and colleagues from ULAS that there will be many presentations on the fantastic discoveries, not just on the facts of what was found, but the stories that can tell us about the people that lived in Newtown Linford over the last at least hundreds, if not thousands of years. Thank you for joining us once again. And finally, just to say that if you'd like to get involved in any of the future archaeological digs, there's another set going on in 2 weeks' time in Stanton under Baden. And then in July, we are going to Woodhouse and Woodhouse Eaves. You can find more information on that at charnwoodforest.org/news. Look for the article on the archaeological digs, and the links are all in there to sign up. You don't need any previous experience of archaeology or history, just a keenness to get involved and discover something new from under the ground. Thank you so much again for joining us on this, a live stream, live from Newtown Linford Village Hall, and we hope you'll join us again when we do one of these on the Sundays, probably at 2:30 on the Sunday of both of the other digs. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your bank holiday weekend, and we'll see you again soon.